A ban on helicopters operating along a route involved in January's deadly mid-air collision that killed 67 people around Washington's Reagan National Airport has been extended. Now, this move comes after a report by the NTSB found an alarming number of close calls involving planes and helicopters near the DCA airport. At least one a month, in fact, going back 13 years.
That the existing separation distances between helicopter traffic operating on Route 4 and aircraft landing on runway 33 are insufficient and pose an intolerable risk to aviation safety by increasing the chances of a mid-air collision at DCA.
For more on this, I want to bring in Gregory Feith. He's a former senior air safety investigator with the NTSB. Remarkable to hear those remarks from the NTSB chair, Gregory. So how could these close proximity chopper flights have been going on for so many years without this type of restriction being taken?
Errol, one of the things about the press conference yesterday was the fact that I don't think we have all the information. While they were tracking a number of events over that period of time, 13 years, you will have what's called a traffic advisory or a resolution advisory based on equipment that is in the aircraft. Plus, you also have an interaction by the air traffic controller because they, on their scope, will also get a collision alert. We have to keep this in context. We don't want to knee-jerk react to all of this information because when you have aircraft that are flying in close proximity, which we have all the time, especially at parallel runway airports where there is close proximity, you will also get a traffic advisory under those conditions. So we have to keep this in context before we go forward with changing the airspace or preventing helicopter traffic in certain areas.
I mean, I had heard about some individual reports of aircraft coming into DCA, having to pull up at the last minute. But you know, at least one a month going back 13 years truly is stunning. Does this now put more scrutiny onto the FAA?
Absolutely. When you look at what we try to do, not only an accident and incident investigation, but again, for the FAA, they need to be proactive. They are getting these reports. They should be trend monitoring all of this. As an NTSB investigator, we typically do a look back, which the NTSB did in this case, and they found all of these events. So the question is, what was the FAA doing? How did they resolve these issues? Were they trend monitoring to see if this was an event that was going to take place? Or did they say, well, it's just one a month, it's not a big deal? That needs to be scrutinized by the NTSB to determine whether or not the FAA actually had processes in place to be doing this kind of trend monitoring, not only at Reagan National, but at other airports where they were getting high number of alerts.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. And this is a preliminary report. It's just their first draft, essentially. But does this not also say something about the avionics systems on board both aircraft? We don't know everything yet, but obviously they weren't enough to prevent this collision.
And you bring up a good point. The question that I have is when they talk about this mix of helicopter and fixed wing traffic, what the chairman did not say is what's the percentage of military aircraft versus civilian aircraft? Everyone is prescribed to be flying at 200 feet on these routes. And from what I heard in the press conference, she said that not only were they not at their proper altitude, but they were off that route. Well, the question is, why? It's operational discipline on the part of a pilot. They know what the routes are. They know what the prescribed limits are. Why weren't they following it? And where was the enforcement because of it? And a lot of times it was, again, they were triggering a TA, a traffic advisory. So where was the scrutiny there and the enforcement of the regulatory requirements? That's a big question that needs to be answered.
Important questions coming out of this. Gregory Feith, we appreciate you joining us with that important context.
You're welcome, Errol.
And in response to that preliminary report by the NTSB, American Airlines said it is grateful for the board's urgent safety recommendations to restrict helicopter traffic near DCA. And it says it will continue to coordinate with PSA Airlines. That's the regional airline that operated the doomed flight, as the investigation continues.